Okay, this says start preparing for Unit 4. This is not material, like these slides are not anything you're going to be tested on. Unit 4 will happen later, and it will have its own quiz and its own exam. What you'll have to do for the Unit 4 exam is know 60 diseases and the microbes that cause them and some basic facts about them. That sounds like a lot, and it is, but what I want to help you understand is that it's a very specific kind of question I'll ask you, and that lends itself to a very specific kind of studying you have to do that makes it not nearly as bad as it could be. And it lets you focus on what you find most interesting about pathogens. So, the common questions you're going to get will be like, what organism causes this disease? Or name that disease. Or I will give you a long description of a disease, and I'll ask you either what's the disease or what causes that disease. So name the organism or name that disease. And so the best way to study for this is to memorize as much as you can about each disease, and I'll help you do that in a systematic way. But what a lot of students have showed me is that they get large flashcards and they spatially organize the information. So in one corner, they might put, well, let's come back to that. I just want to skip ahead to this slide. These are the sorts of facts that I will include in a description when we're doing name that disease or name that pathogen. What causes the disease? That's the first thing. You have to learn this for every disease. And I'll tell you something about it. If it's bacteria, I'll tell you gram-positive, gram-negative. Is it an anaerobe? Does it have a weird lifestyle? Is it a DNA virus or an RNA virus? Does it have an envelope? So if you know these things, that'll help you. What is the patient experience? Does it cause a rash, or does it kill everyone who gets it? Is it somewhere in between? What does it do to the patient? What are the risk factors? Does everybody get it? Do only small children get it, or do immunocompromised adults get it? And how do they get it? Is it spread by mosquitoes or by air or by contaminated food? Can we treat it with drugs? Can we prevent it? And then if there are any major virulence factors I talk about, I'll bring those up in the descriptions. So these are the major ways I would group the information you'd memorize. And if we go back up to spatially organized flashcards, what you can do is, what I recommend is in one corner you might do risk factor. Down here you might do treatment, prevention. Up here you might do signs and symptoms, or fatality, or just the patient patient experience. Down here you might do epidemiology. And then in the center you could do the causative agent. And then on the opposite side of the card, the disease. Now what that lets you do is study all these things together and then test yourself what's the name of the disease. Or cover up the risk factor and see if you can remember the risk factor that goes with the rest of these things. Cover up the causative agent and see if you can remember the causative agent that goes with all these things. When it comes to memorization, you first do encoding work. You try to create new synapses in your brain, but then you have to do the self-testing to get yourself retrieval pathways in your brain that help you bring that information to your conscious thoughts. And that's what flashcards do. When you test yourself, you are building retrieval pathways. And if you have spatially organized information like this, you're setting yourself up to easily test yourself a lot of different ways to build retrieval pathways to all this different stuff. And when you finally take the test, you're going to think about those things while you see an example question like this, or when you see a question like this. When you finally take the test, you're going to see questions like this. So you can pause the video if you want, read this. You might or might not get this. A lot of times I've talked about this disease already in class. But this is anthrax. And so what do we see in this question? Well, first, the causative agent, and then this is a very important fact about it. A lot of risk factors, and then the patient experience, and then treatment and prevention. So all those things. This first thing, this category A bioweapon, well, that is why would this disease or pathogen be included? That's a really critical thing to know about each one. Just think through, why is it so important that we're learning it? Because as you're learning 60 different diseases, I'm also showing you the lists of what I have deleted from when I've taught this at other colleges where I've taught them all the diseases. And there are more than 60 we're skipping. So ask yourself, why are these so important? By the way, at those other colleges, I did that because we spent 2 months on pathogens, whereas in this class we only get 2 weeks. This is a very useful thing to think about as you're learning the pathogens. And I think that's all I wanted to say about Unit 4. So get something you can use to make flashcards like this, and it will help you. And then also, if you haven't met the people in your section, go ahead and do that now so that you can work with them. And they can make some of these while you can make some of the other ones so that you don't have to make them all yourself. That's my recommendation. Okay, thanks and have a great day.